Today I tell the story of moving out of my parents' basement. Welcome to the It's Not That Deep podcast. I'm your host, Deepak Sharma, and today's episode of Journey to Success, I'm going to talk to you guys about my story of moving out of my parents' basement. Now, before I get into all that, just quickly for those who might not know, the Journey to Success, it's very much something that I started because I'm not successful yet, but I know I will be. And so I want to document the journey to getting there. I don't know anyone else really doing that. From my perspective, I only see the people who've already made it. So I'd want to watch someone on their journey to success. So thanks for joining me on this, and let's get right into it. So moving out of my parents' basement, this is an interesting story. So, it's back in 2018, if I remember. I had just done like basically a year of being out of university. So I had already graduated and out into the real world. Now, I put that in air quotes because I still, even though I started my career, even though I was done uni and I got that piece of paper, I was not completely independent. I was still living under my parents' roof, and I felt like, the next step for me was to go out on my own and figure things out on my own and live life on my own. So before I get into the whole story, I do want to say how much I love my parents. I love my parents to death. I really want to preface this whole story to say that, I obviously would not be here without them and all the sacrifices they made. And having immigrant parents, who sacrificed their comfortable lives back home to come over here and for better opportunities for their children, I'll never be able to thank them enough for that. But with that being said, and I think a lot of my friends with immigrant parents will relate to, they never really fully ingrain into Western society. Even though they'll, many of the things they will adjust to, they will still carry a large part of their own culture with them, whatever culture that may be, wherever you're from. So, even though they've largely assimilated into the culture, there's this constant internal battle when you're first generation Canadian or wherever, where you've got your friend group and you've got society here living a certain way, and then at home you've got this kind of microcosm of what it's like back home, because your parents, quite frankly, don't want to let go of that part of their culture or their heritage, which is completely acceptable, understandable, and you actually wouldn't even want them to change that. It's you who has to kind of take yourself out of that and bring a level of understanding to them that, hey, this is how I want to live my life. These are the things that I want to do. I might not follow this same path and, have 6 generations of people living under one roof, or, just a bunch of, cultural things that they clash. Let's just say that. So despite their sacrifice, I love them to death. I knew that I thrive when I'm not living at home. I just know it. Whenever I travel, when I got to go on an exchange, all that kind of stuff, is like I was thriving. I was really figuring out who I am as a person and what I want to do, and what I want to do with my life. So I knew that was something that I have to do. But it's a weird thing, because I didn't really. It's not like you just wake up one day and you completely know that, okay, today's the day. This is when I'm financially ready. This is when I got a place lined up. And, it's never really that clean cut. So I'll get into the story. So my parents had recently moved into this home, and, the plan was for me to have the basement as my bedroom and my kind of apartment. And so I'm sitting there, and it was it was a home where, you know, what, you go into the house and there's like an opening to the basement, but there wasn't a door. It was like very much open, and there wasn't a door at the bottom. So it's like you still don't have like your privacy. You still don't have like your own quote unquote space. So I'm down there, and I think that's nice. It's got a bathroom down there, which is pretty cool. You know, I didn't have that before, my own at least. And you know, it's got like the bare bones basics of what could be a kitchen, but none, like it's not fully like renovated in that aspect. And you know, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I need to like separate this space a bit. So so what did I do? I hired a contractor to build a door, and it wasn't possible to build one at the top of the stairs because again, it was very open. You would have to build a massive, anyways. So we're like, man, I'll just build one at the bottom of the stairs. Why not? It'll at least give me some privacy, you know, and I'll have a little bit more space at least until I figure out my next move. So I got this door built, and long story short on that, I hired the worst contractor you could have possibly hired at. Yes, I cheaped out. I learned my lesson. This dude built a crooked door on a shitty frame. It was just a complete nightmare. But at the end of the day, I got a door, and I'm sitting down there once this crappy project's complete, and it's just, I sat there, I'm like, this ain't it, bro. This just ain't it. I'm sitting there like, I got a door, but man, something was not sitting right with me. The point was, I could not thrive under the same roof as my parents. It's not that they were doing anything wrong. It's just they were the ones doing all the groceries. They're the ones, you know, taking care of a lot of the bills that I wasn't paying. Like, you know, I'd only be taking care of my own things, like my own clothing or cell phone, car insurance, that kind of stuff, right? But I wasn't I never felt fully like I'm a man. I'm taking care of my own, you know, everything now. So because I had a 9 to 5 job throughout this whole experience, and I was quite frankly saving a decent amount of money living at home. That's like obviously one of the biggest arguments for that. I still didn't feel like I had like saved up enough or that I was ready enough to move out. But it was when I was sitting in the basement when it was like, I'm looking at this crooked shitty door. I'm just like, man, I gotta go, man. So, you know, the point was my growth had been stagnated. I was like, you know, I gotta go. I gotta go. So anyways, it's like December of 2018, and I remember I'm on a trip with my cousin and my brother, and we're in Toronto, and I'm just cooling it. It's kind of like a mini vacation, you know, even though it's just Toronto. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, I'm not going back to my parents' crib. I'm not going back to my parents' house. Like, I love them to death. Again, remember that. Like, I want to make that completely clear. I love them to death, but I gotta go, man. I gotta spread my wings. And so I'm sitting in Toronto, and I'm like, yo. And I had already been looking for like different rentals. I checked like Facebook. I was checking like Kijiji, Pad Mapper, some of these other like places where you could check rental listings. I wasn't finding anything, man. Nothing in a good location, within budget, you know, decent lease terms. Like, I was just like being overly picky about it, but at the same time, like, this is where you live, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to be in like a very shitty area of the city either. And I didn't want to be paying through the roof either. So it was like trying to find that balance. So I'm like, man, let me just check Airbnb. Like, I don't know why this thought came about, but I'm like, let me just check Airbnb. I heard they might have long-term listings. So I go on there and I check Ottawa, you know, something like for a month. And I found this one listing in the Westboro area. And those who live in Ottawa know that the Westboro area is kind of a little bit of a nicer area. And I'm like, okay. And this is very close to where I work. I check it out. I'm like, yo, these people are gone for like 2-3 months and they need a tenant and they need one ASAP. And they were willing to give a discount of 40% if you booked a month or more. So I'm like, yo, book it. So I went and I booked that Airbnb, without even giving this too much thought. I'm just like, nah, I need this. If nothing else, I need some space to figure things out. And so booked this Airbnb. It's a 1-bedroom, like obviously fully furnished, and it's got everything I need until I figure things out a little bit more, right? And that was like where that was where like I booked this place for like 2 months, and I'm like, I'm starting this new year. I'm starting 2019 on a different note, man. So I come back to Ottawa, and I didn't really know how to break this to my parents, because it's not like I found a place. Like, I'm renting a place for 2 months. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't tell them that. So I sat them down, and I was like, hey guys, like, look, I know you guys know this too, but it's overdue. I've been needing to move out. It just has to happen. It's not you guys, it's me. It's not you, it's me. And so I'm like, I found a place. It's a short-term rental, but it's all very legit. I did not tell them it's Airbnb. I was like, I'm gonna be there for, I forgot what I told them, like 5 months until I find a place to stay. My pops was like, about time. And my mom, on the other hand, man, she lost it. She was like crying. She was like, no, son, why you gotta go? Stay here. Everything's here. Everything's all good. I'm like, Mom, that's the point. I gotta go. And to be honest with you, to this day, it's been over 1.5 years since I moved out. I still don't think she's fully over it. She still tries to cook me food. She still tries to, she's like, let me take care of this for you. It's like, man, Mom, I love you, but I could take care of myself. So it was a big, like, it seems like it's not that big of a deal, right? But when the expectation from, like, in Indian society specifically, is to live with your parents until they die. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Indian households are multi-generational households. So it was like going against the grain a little bit. They knew I was going to move out, but they didn't think it was going to be then and there. And so packed all my shit, got my brother to help me out, moved all my stuff into this apartment. And that first night laying down in obviously someone else's bed, kind of weird, but laying down in a bed and just like feeling this, almost this fear, but then also like uncertainty at the same time, but then also relief, like ultimate like sigh of fresh air, like it's time. I made a decision, and I know deep down in my heart I'm not moving back in. Like it's it. I'm gonna find a spot, and it's go time. Like I'm not. Once I'm out, I'm not gonna move back in. It was just something. It was decided. That's just how I am. And so, found the spot. I'm there, and now it's like I gotta try to figure out, where am I really gonna stay? And so fast forward, like a month goes by. I'm living in this place. I'm loving it. I'm cooking my own food. I've got my own groceries. I'm learning, how much I'm spending on things. I'm getting my finances right. And it's a complete experimentation phase. I'm literally just figuring things out. And that's what sometimes I think you need to do in life. I think it's, even when you don't feel like you're ready, jump off the deep end and just figure it out. And so for me, I still had to find a place. So I got on Kijiji, and one day I get on Kijiji and I see this listing, Westboro studio apartment, month to month. And I'm like, damn, bro. Because I had been looking for that whole month and months actually for a spot in an ideal location, within budget, with flexible rental terms. Like I don't want to sign a year lease to a place that I don't necessarily want to sign a year lease to. And so I got really lucky, man. I hit up this guy and I call him up. And there's something weird about the ad though, because there's no photos of the apartment. I was like, called the guy up. I'm like, can I come check this out? He's like, yeah, but come right now because there's overwhelming demand. Like there's a lot of people who want to rent this place. So it happened to be 2 streets down from where I was staying at the Airbnb. It was 2 streets down. So I got over there. I talked to the gentleman, and the first question I asked him was like, "Bro, why don't you have any photos of the spot?" And he's like, he was an elderly gentleman, and he's like, I couldn't figure out how to upload photos to Kijiji. Anyways, so I check out. I'm like, can you at least show me the place? And he's like, yeah, the old tenant still has his stuff there, but it's gonna be that stuff's all gonna be gone soon, and then you can move in. I'm like, okay. I check it out, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I had never seen someone live like this. Like the previous tenant, this dude was an absolute hoarder. Like, I don't know, maybe I can edit in a video that I made of that place. But it absolutely blew my mind that people could live like this. I'm like, I'm not trying to hate, but the dude had like 2 kids in here, and like, I've never seen so many things. And it was very hard for me to picture, like, how am I gonna live in this dump? But I had the vision. I'm like, okay, you know what? Once I get all this stuff out, I'm telling you, dude had so much stuff. You know what? I'm gonna link the video, but he had so much stuff, and I'm just like, bro, what do I do with this? But I had the vision. I'm like, once I get all this stuff out, I put like a smaller bed in. I could make this like my main room. I could even, do this. I could do that. I could throw some paint on the wall. I could make it my own, So I had that vision, and, I know the story is getting kind of long now, but, long story short, I got the deal done with the guy, and it's like, I officially moved out. And so, all that kind of started from just this gut feeling that I had when I was sitting in that basement, when I was like, this ain't it, bro. This is not it. Like, I think I think I gotta do something else. So always pay attention to that gut feeling. Make sure you appreciate it. And, it wasn't much of a risk. Like, I'm not saying I took some crazy risk, but just jump and see what happens. What was going to be the worst thing that happened? I had to move back home. I wasn't going to do that, but when you know. And so, yeah, kind of, that was just, I just wanted to set up the story, tell you guys kind of, me moving out of my parents' basement represented a lot of change in my life, a lot of growth. And so I'm actually going to be doing another video on that, another podcast episode of Journey to Success, on kind of the 7 takeaways, of this experience, and why I think it's so important to have your own space and grow, and especially when you're young and you're not tied to too many things. Figure out who you are, figure out how you want to live, figure out the things that you want to do with your experience, with your one life. Because at the end of the day, we only get one life. That's really like the thing that I want to drive home with Journey to Success is I might be like intense sometimes, I might be funny sometimes, I might be whatever, but I'm literally just trying to always get this point across that we only have one life, so make the best of it. Realize your potential. Don't just sit around and just complain about the world around you or the situation that you're in or the circumstances that you're in. I'm very lucky that I've been able to do this, but there's nothing out there that says that you can't just, get your ducks in a row and move out. Like, we overcomplicate it, and we overcomplicate a lot of things in life. And I'll leave you with this. It's not that deep. Thanks for listening, and check out the next episode of Journey to Success, where I outline my 7 takeaways from moving out. Thanks. Remember, it's not that deep.